Alright y'all, we're back. And with the announcement of Capcom Fighting Collection 2, I think it's a good time to look at the history of Power Stone. Yes, Power Stone. One of those games that are fan favorites that's been fun. I remember like when I was young, I used to play that game, man. It's always been a classic for me though. But today, man, we're going to react to the history of Power Stone, man. Shout outs to Top Hat Gaming, man. You know, I've done a few of his videos though, and it's just interesting to see where Power Stone started, why it was made. Just the whole game just itself is interesting though, man. But before we start the video, man, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, notification bell, like the video, comment something, and let's get to it.
So I thought, why not just simply give the people what they want? Power Stone is a title that I have a fair amount of experience playing, but I have never really considered that this game comes from the same genre as, say, this game. So, keeping all of this in mind, why do people look at this title as a fighting game if it plays absolutely nothing like many of its so-called contemporaries? Well,
that's interesting.
Let's explore this as part of our deep dive today. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the mad story of Power Stone, and whether or not it can be considered a fighting game. Yeah! It is late 1999. It is an interesting time period in gaming, and an interesting time to be a console gamer. Many peasants continued to play exclusively on the extremely dated Sony PlayStation. That was 5 years old by this point. Whilst there were other gamers who had backed the wrong horse and were stuck with a limited selection of expensive foggy games on their Nintendo 64s.
Man, what an era!
During this time frame, there were those who were more sophisticated amongst humanity though. Those were the people who owned Sega Dreamcast.
Man, I gotta do a video on Sega Dreamcast. Like, if you had the Sega Dreamcast and you understood how ahead of its time that system was, man, from what was it? Was Jet Set Radio on Dreamcast? I believe so. Although it didn't have too many games and it didn't have a long run, I think it had maybe 360 games, probably a little bit more than that though. They had some strong titles, and I feel like they could have kept competing with PlayStation had they not just thrown in the towel like that. Yeah though, man, like that was a time. Like in the day though, we didn't have updates. Whatever game that you got is what you got though, man. So I just still remember this system like it was yesterday when I first got it. I remember when I had Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on it. I remember I had Shenmue on it. Man, I remember when I had NBA 2K on it. Like this system was a powerful system, and I hate that it didn't have a longer run. But I'm glad it's finally getting its flowers now. And I also wonder where Sega would be as a whole had they continued with the Dreamcast system. For all we know, we could be on Sega Dreamcast 5. That could have been a possibility. For whatever reason, which I'm gonna do my research on why the Dreamcast ended though. But let's get back to it.
The most powerful console in the world that was leaps and bounds ahead of its competition. Personally, I, on the other hand, never needed to choose a side, as I simply made my mother buy all 3 consoles for me to play with. Whilst I was fortunate, there were those who could only have one system through this time period. And in my opinion, the Sega Dreamcast was certainly by far the best option of the bunch near the turn of the millennium. The Dreamcast would feature a plethora of great games, many of which were like nothing that gamers had ever experienced prior. And a perfect example of one of these titles is of course the subject of today's video, Power Stone. The Sega Dreamcast was a console that could truly bring the arcade experience home, and in many cases it would do this literally, as in many games' cases prior to their Dreamcast home console releases, they would start life out as arcade titles that ran on Sega Naomi hardware, an arcade board that shared a lot of architectural similarities with the famous home console. Power Stone is a perfect example of one of these titles, arriving initially in Japanese arcades in February of 1999.
Oh, don't do that to me. 1999? Man, that's 2 decades ago. Wait, yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm feeling old, man.
With this said, without further ado, let's check out this Japanese arcade game's introductory scene.
時は19世紀迷信や伝説が生きていた古き良き時代一攫千金を夢見る冒険者たちは伝説の秘宝を追い求めていたどんな願いも叶えてくれる秘跡パワーストーンを
Man, you had to be there. You had to be there, man. Enter coins.
To be fair, the intro reveals little about the game, outside of a brief synopsis of the story and a look at some of the colourful lineup of characters the game contains. Past this point, a preview of the gameplay can be seen for those who are yet to insert a coin. So
I can't
let's
wait.
discuss what this is all bloody about. The story of this very novel game is set back in the 19th century. The game features a set of strong believers in legends, myths and superstitions, which powers their pursuit to seek fame, fortune and glory. In this game's world, one legend is sought after by many. A treasure is said to exist that can make any
dope,
dream
man.
come true. This coveted prize in this world is known as the Power Stone. The Power Stone is an object that believers from all over the planet are in search of, which, in this game's case, results in a bunch of fights and punch-ups between individuals in their personal pursuit of this holy grail. Like a traditional fighting game, Power Stones...
For those who haven't played Power Stone, basically the objective of Power Stone is, obviously it's a fighting game. You want to beat the person in front of you. But you collect all the stones, right? And it gives you a super move. 9 times out of 10, that super move is going to be super broken or whatever to beat the character in front of you. Same thing with Power Stone 2, basically, except it's 4 players, which, yeah, though, Power Stone was fun. Super fun. And I can't wait to play it on Capcom Fighting Collection 2, but let's get back to it.
Sees players reach a player select screen, where they can choose to play as one of 10 different heroes in their quest for the stone, all of whom we shall discuss in more detail later in this video. To give you a very basic overview of what players do in this game, after selecting a character, players go on to battle against the rest of this game's cast. Like many games from the traditional fighting game genre, this takes place one-on-one in various different locations around the world. The huge change, though, from fighting games as we know them is that fights in Power Stone take place in 3-dimensional environments. Characters can use both flurries of punches and kicks along with a range of special attacks, but further from this they can also pick up and use objects as weapons, such as tables, chairs, rocks and
Game
bombs.
is way ahead of its
Throughout
time,
these
man.
fights, Power Stones appear. These resemble gems and come in a range of different colours. If players are quick and savvy enough to collect 3 of these bad boys, they have the ability to transform into more powerful versions of themselves. Think of this as the same as Sonic's ability to turn into Super Sonic when he is in possession of all of the Chaos Emeralds. In this ascended state, the characters are able to use 2 different super special attacks, which usually consist of a long-range powerful attack and a grab close-range strong maneuver.
Is it me, and I'm sure this came before then, but is it me or does Dragon Ball Z inspire a lot of things? Y'all let me know in the comments. I could be wrong, but it feels like Dragon Ball Z inspires a lot of things that came out pre-2000s. For sure, though, man.
These enhanced abilities only last until players' power bars are completely drained. The super special attacks in this form completely drain the power bar, while smaller special moves only remove a portion of the bar. Like in a traditional fighting game, a winner is decided when one of the 2 fighters' life bars is completely depleted. So far, as you can see, the game certainly has a lot of similarities with franchises such as Street Fighter and Darkstalkers, which is not that surprising considering that this is yet another franchise from Capcom. But what was the inspiration for this title which made it so similar to fighting games, yet at the same time so different? Let's look into this. Apart from the extremely unique gameplay that Power Stone offered, another striking feature of the title was the game's imaginative environment itself. The 19th century setting is a universe laced with pirate ships, temples and taverns, giving off a very steampunk vibe. The game's setting is accompanied by a lineup of characters, the likes of which are very different to fighters found in other Capcom games. So, let's hear from the game's head designer, Hideki Itsuno, to hear what he has to say about the whole thing. He states that I was going to go over modern day setting to appeal to as many players as possible, but modern day technology lacks a certain flair. There's just no romance to it. So I went with the 19th century, before such technology became ubiquitous. In terms of the game's story...
You know what the problem with today's video games are though, man, is obviously DLC and the lack of creativity today, man, is... I'm not going to say the graphics were tip top because we already know they wasn't top notch back then though, man. But there were so many fresh ideas back then. And it seems like today, a lot of ideas are recycled, even though you can't really invent the wheel over and over again though. But it seems like a lot of these games are lacking in identity and replay value. Like, man, I remember being able to play games like Power Stone for hours with my friends. And now that we can bring it online and then play for hours against people around the world it's going to be something special. And then like I said, man, I'm not sure what's wrong with games today nowadays. Cause we're seeing games being canceled 11 days when it releases without even giving it a chance to flourish due to sales. Like, I'm not sure if games sold better back then than they do today. They probably did. Man, there's definitely been a change in the gaming community as far as replay value, as far as the price of games, as far as people actually appreciating games more. We live in a scroll society. You can get the same quality of PlayStation and Xbox games on your cell phone, which is crazy. Times change though, man. But we'll see where the gaming industry goes moving forward though.
He credits the inspiration of Indiana Jones and Jackie Chan movies
I didn't know
he
that.
had watched in his younger days, which pretty much marries up fighting and exploring very well, much like the plot of this game. To quote the man himself, he states, "It seemed to me to be the kind of positive setting anyone could feel excited about." Even more novel than the story itself was of course the game's fresh take on gameplay. The fighting in this game that takes place is all from an isometric perspective with moving cameras. This all came to be due to the following factors. Itsuno states that the game started as a Street Fighter style side view fighting game where you would push the stick twice in a direction to move into or out of the screen. The game's producer,
glad that they changed it.
would add to this, stating it was only halfway through development that it changed to an overhead view. I remember how great it felt once we'd got the game to a place where it seemed completely different from Street Fighter. In regards to this game's fighting game roots, we have already mentioned that it was published by Capcom. But what I have yet to mention is that prior to this, Itsuno had already worked on Star Gladiator, Rival Schools, and Street Fighter Alpha, 3 very important fighting games released by Capcom. Using his knowledge gained from all of this, Itsuno wanted to innovate and create something new and fresh for gamers that differed greatly from everything that had come before it. He mentioned that working on 3D fighting games taught me how to retain the satisfying gameplay of a 2D fighter while providing the freedom of moving in a 3D space. One of my aims with Power Stone was to bring my experience to something that would be well received by players other than just hardcore fighting fans.
He definitely accomplished that. Man, the fact that with Power Stone, you get a mix between Street Fighter, Rival Schools, and Plasma Sword. Like it's something very, very special, man. And whenever this fighting collection comes out, y'all are gonna see how special this game is and how fun it is. It's gonna make you forget about the graphics. It's gonna make you forget about all the other stuff that we always worried about with these newer fighting games, or really newer video games in general.
Games have become incredibly niche, and ordinary gamers were no longer able to keep up. This quote is particularly interesting because, as covered on this channel before, this was the same time frame that Street Fighter 3, along with the revisions, all commercially bombed. And Rival School's sequel, Project Justice, did not perform too clever itself either. Due to this line of thinking, I would say amongst the mainstream, Power Stone is a game most people would remember more fondly from this era than the other games just mentioned, even though Street Fighter III would gain a little more popularity at a later date. Also, in relation to some of my older uploads, we know that fighting games would eventually make a comeback in the late noughties, which was partially down to the simplified controls that Street Fighter IV, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and Tatsunoko vs. Capcom would feature over the older games that had contributed to turning the casual market off of the genre prior. Itsuno in his game Power Stone was also one of the pioneers in this modern way of thinking, designed a game where players could get by playing this game just knowing 3 moves: a punch, a kick and a jump. Anyone could do big damage too simply by obtaining
less is more. The simplicity of games back then is what made it fun.
The weapons scattered throughout stages, which could be used in a variety of ways, including being thrown. Many elements like these placed in the game by Itsuno were also adopted in the creation of Super Smash Bros. Another game that's worth covering
Hold up! I know it! I know it! Something told me Super Smash Brothers got their mojo from Power Stone. Something told me that. I couldn't put my finger on it. I was wondering, man. Like, that's what, like, I always compared Super Smash Brothers and Power Stone to one another, man. Man, Power Stone Power Stone didn't get its flowers they deserve. It's like Super Smash Brothers continued to go on and make more and more and more games. Honestly, had Sega Dreamcast kept going, Power Stone probably would be as big as Super Smash Brothers today. Hands down. I know it would be though, man. See, that's crazy. I didn't even know that. I had a feeling that Smash Brothers got its inspiration from Power Stone. I can never prove it and put my finger on it though.
The future to discuss whether or not that it should really be considered a fighting game. Speaking of the weaponry that is scattered throughout Power Stone's stages, Itsuno states we made the weapons powerful to encourage players to use them a lot. We didn't want to just add something in on top of the fighting gameplay so much as make items part of the fighting strategy itself.
Dope.
The weapon-wielding WAP scallions in this game would include a very British main protagonist named Edward Falcon. Like myself, Edward is a fellow Londoner and uses a boxing fighting style. Fisticuffs.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. So Power Stone, which we'll probably do another video about Power Stone 2 on another day, probably tomorrow actually, possibly. But man, Power Stone was ahead of its time. And like he said, Super Smash Brothers got their inspiration and mojo from Power Stone. And I wholeheartedly believe that if Sega Dreamcast had kept going, or like, well, why didn't Microsoft get the rights to Power Stone? I feel like Power Stone probably could have saved Xbox as far as like exclusive games. Xbox needs to get the rights to Power Stone. Power Stone could legit save the Xbox right now, because right now, although they made a good move as far as like the fighting collections and stuff though, but Xbox needs an exclusive like Power Stone. They need it. Just like Nintendo has Smash Brothers, Microsoft needs Power Stone. So make a new Power Stone and put it on Xbox and make it their exclusive. And I guarantee you it'll battle Smash Brothers, because Smash Brothers is Power Stone's little brother. Yeah though, man, but the history of Power Stone is definitely interesting. I love how it's a fighting game platform all in one. Power Stone 2 is even better. That's the crazy part though, man, because usually sequels don't hit the mark, but man, it definitely blew out expectations. And that's why this game is expensive whenever you actually find a physical copy of this game. And that's why I'm glad it's coming back to Capcom Fighting Collection 2 2025. But those are my thoughts. Another great video from Top Hat Gaming, man. Shout out to him. But y'all let me know how y'all feel about Power Stone and it coming to Capcom Fighting Collection 2. Are you getting Capcom Fighting Collection 2? And will you be playing this game online? I know I will be for sure, man. But you already know what to do, man. So Architect Mr. J with another video. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, like, comment, share. Until next time, peace. It's crazy because this fighting collection is harder than Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. It's beautiful, man. Thank you, Capcom. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening, Capcom. Man, I can't wait. Man, take that game off. Like, man, take this game off, man. I don't know if anybody asked for that. I don't know. It might have a resurgence. We'll see. Love to see it, man. Love to see it.
I ain't never scared, never quitting is the motto.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it all.
Come on, everybody come alive real quick. Battle of the strong, survival of the fit. Take your best shot, hope you don't miss. A new challenge is among us.
They can take it higher, you can take it much farther.
Fast with the hands, E Honda. Defend my legacy with strength and honor.
They put this together beautifully, man. Coming 2025, let's hope it's early 2025, spring 2025.